She's black and vocal, vocal, vocal. She's black and vocal as fuck, vocal. She's black and vocal, vocal, vocal. She's black and vocal as fuck, vocal, vocal as fuck.
What up? It's your girl, Sean Janae, aka Soul Sister, and this is episode 5 of Black and Vocal as Fuck, the podcast. Cinco. Iche ni son young go. It's 5. It's go in Japanese. Anywho.
You know Japanese?
C. I mean, height.
Lord.
What up, y'all? I'm so excited to have my friend in the building.
Yo, yo, yo.
This episode, we're going to dig into the mentality and the mind and the brain.
Is that what we do?
You like brain?
Yeah.
Okay, I like brain too.
Well, what kind of brain we talking about?
The brain you get when you're getting brain.
I mean, hey.
Hey.
Yeah.
We don't discriminate. So, I'm gonna, y'all know who I am. Y'all always know who I am. It's Soul Sister. Y'all love me. I love y'all. Who are you?
Who am I?
Ooh, that's the Barry White voice.
Ooh. Well, do you want a long eight or you want a short?
I mean, hey, we ain't got nothing but time.
Oh,
It's just me and
okay.
you, baby.
All right. Well,
My husband here, he not jealous, y'all. It's okay.
Oh, I was like, what?
Because I called you baby.
Oh, I was like, what did I do? What did I
You're
say?
not my husband.
Okay.
I'm looking for a wife and you don't fit you don't.
I can throw in a wig. Cut off my beard.
I don't know that babe will be ready for that. I'm sorry, y'all. We have no sense. It's okay.
All right. So I am Langston Jones. I'm a jack of all trades. So educator by profession, also a HIV advocate or public health. I'm also a stylist for Kansas City, and then I'm doing a life coach cohort. So in that, I'm a certified life coach. But you put me on game on marrying people too. So I'll add that to my resume too.
I want to start marrying people too. We'll
You
talk
should do
about
it.
that later.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think it will work.
Yeah, most def.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
he just married somebody and I was in the wedding, kind of, sort of. Anyhow.
But that collabo was really dope, though.
Yes, because it was natural.
It was.
That's why this is natural, because we already know each other. When did we meet?
Years
I
ago.
bet you don't know. Where?
It had to be the Juke, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the Juke House.
Yeah.
The historic 18th and Vine Jazz District
Yeah.
in Kansas City, Missouri. Soul Sessions,
It had to be Soul Sessions.
a weekly
That's
open
the
mic
only
venue.
reason I go to Juke House.
Right? You were passing out condoms.
I was.
Why?
Why? No. So I work for an organization. So historically, they're called Good Samaritan Project. Then we merged from Vibant Health. Well, no, we're Vibant Health now, but then we were Thrive Health Connection. So I'm an HIV prevention specialist. So part about being in the community for Black people is educating us. And one of the biggest things is coming out in the unconventional ways to sit there and support people. Because we know sometimes you want a raw dog and things like that, or you ain't got money. And so how about you just get these free contraceptives
I think I
and keep it
still
moving?
have condoms in my drawer from you. They're probably expired by
I
now,
was
huh?
about to say.
I probably should get rid of them.
You want to make
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
look at that.
Double
So
check expiration dates on condoms, guys.
Definitely do
Wrap that shit
I
up.
think it's 5 years.
Okay, yeah,
I think
it's a
I'm
long
making that up.
time.
Yeah.
Because I thought I caught my husband with a condom one time, but I seen a date.
It was you.
And I was like, nah, this had to be way before me because the date was like 2020.
See, trying to catch them up,
Yeah.
but it's you.
He didn't get caught up, y'all.
See? Men
'Cause
lie, women lie. But I think in
numbers
this situation,
don't.
it was you.
So we were doing rapid HIV testing in the back of a club on a Monday night where people were on stage doing poetry.
Oh, and then I did the condom distribution. Or, no, I did the demonstration, too.
What'd you demonstrate? How to
Remember?
put a condom on?
Yeah, well, it wasn't putting on, but it was how big a normal size condom can fit over your entire hand to the elbow. So,
Damn it, we should have brought condoms. That ain't even what this show is about, y'all. This show is about mental health. But I'm talking to you about how we even know each other. I'm an event planner in Kansas City, so I get to meet a lot of amazing people in Langston, and we've stayed in contact all this time. I did a rapid HIV test. I was negative, thank God, because being in the club and finding
Shout
out that
out
shit
about
came back positive, That'd be fucked up.
It's definitely weird to sit there and tell somebody that they positive
Yeah.
versus telling them that they're negative, because you can just sit there and walk out. I mean, you can walk out the other way, but
Right, but
it's
then you
still
wanna
that what's it
provide-
called? Yeah. So you might be in there for a elongated process, because who knows what emotions people are going through. So
Okay. Shout out to Safe Sex. He made me take a shot of Fireball before we started, so I'm all warm and fuzzy. So if I start taking off items of clothing, y'all know what's going on.
your hair's fresh though.
Yeah, shout out to Sweet Twist in Grandview, Missouri, who gets me right every time.
Ew.
Yes. So I think my ADD is kicking in. So you're trying to distract me on purpose.
Am
We met you. So you still work for that company?
I do. I am contracted through
crazy.
them. So yeah.
So, and you do what other than going into clubs and giving away condoms and showing people how far can a condom reach? What was I don't remember that
It
demonstration.
can actually read a normal size condom, not a magnum, not a large, but a normal size condom. If you put it on right, can sit there and stretch from your whole entire, to your elbow. So there's a video.
Who got an elbow dick?
I mean, Mandingo.
It's elbow dicks?
I mean, hey,
I don't want no elbow dick.
have you not been on Twitter?
X?
Well yes. You
No,
were.
I haven't.
Well.
It's still supposed to be Twitter.
Well, you might see some things on there.
I don't want an
so-
elbow dick.
All right.
I'll be okay with an
All
elbow
right.
dick. But
Not
I
in
was
these
just
guts?
curious to know.
Okay. Gotcha.
So you went from doing that to doing what you presently do. So you're still an advocate.
I am.
And what else does that include?
So educating is one of the biggest pieces, is educating. So I do a lot of education for the younger generations, because clearly we misappropriate information out there when it comes to HIV and STIs. I mean, why are we still talking about, what is it, blue balls and what's the other one? What do they tell you for women?
Pink balls?
No, it's something.
I don't know.
But it's something. It's something. It's an old school myth to sit there and kind of like tell people that, or to scare people not into having sex. But it's kind of like everybody doing it.
But we don't.
We are human beings.
We don't have education about sex. Period. Not just about STIs. We don't talk about sex.
I like
in
how
our
you said
community.
that. STI.
STD. Because the first time I heard STI, I was like, "What the fuck is that?"
Yeah. The only difference between disease and infection is they changed it just because infections can reoccur and diseases are more so. It just means like a death sentence. So that's the only biggest
But
difference.
who's dying?
I mean, people dying every day.
What
But
was
not
you
from-
supposed to add at the end of that?
Huh?
What did they say on Paid in Full? B. You were supposed to say B.
B.
Never mind.
Is this the ADD?
People dying every day, B. No. What does but that I met you like that, right?
Yeah.
But then you're the stylist, so I kept seeing you everywhere, and I kept seeing you with notable people in Kansas City that are on stage, musicians, artists, things of that nature. So you have a whole nother situation. What is that about, and how did it come about?
So I'm thinking you're talking about styling.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's it.
So styling actually, so I really got into styling back in my teens. So I always do the tagline that, I come from a poor middle class family. And so, we get in thrift store clothes and everything like that. But you got to sit there and make something work out. So my mom was getting these clothes and trying to sit there and do stuff. And so that's how I initially got into it. But, through teens, you go through, self-esteem.
For sure.
And so that definitely messes things up. So that's how I kind of wanted to sit there and get into fashion as a way to sit there and boost my, self-esteem kind of growing up, just because, hey, I want these pair of Jordans, and everybody's got Jordans or got Abercrombie, and mama can't afford it because she done sat there and got 5 kids. So
How old are you?
35?
Oh, you a baby.
Well, no.
No, not
Yeah.
a baby.
Life after 25, you
I
know
mean,
I'm
in
a
high
baby.
school, we didn't have Abercrombie, so you threw me off.
Y'all didn't?
No, we had Gap.
I mean,
Yeah, Old
yeah.
Navy.
I mean, but still, that's
Yeah,
still
the
a
stuff-
high
the
end.
shit we couldn't afford.
Yeah. So that's all I'm saying is you can't afford it. So, but navigating through that, fashion just came really natural to me, and so I started styling people in college. Yeah, they'd be like, "Hey, what should I wear going out to the club tonight?" And then you see it on TV how people style people kind of going forward, and you like, hey, I could turn this into kind of an income and things like that. So it's definitely still a trade, but hopefully I can turn into 2024 into like a, an income.
So how did they know even to come to you about what to wear?
I post a lot of my stuff on social media, but a lot comes word of mouth. So
Okay.
that's one of the biggest things. A lot of word of the mouth, like, oh yeah, hit up so and so and things of that nature. Like they'll get you together and things of that nature. So yeah.
And your family is kind of sort of a big deal where we're from, right?
Unfortunately.
I mean, I wanted to talk about it because you weren't going to mention it. Who is your family and why are they a big deal in the city of Kansas City, Missouri?
Well, no, I'm just playing. My family owns a funeral home. It's called Langston Jones and Sons here, and so we are the first, I think, black funeral home, not only in Kansas City but in the Midwest. So
Okay.
yeah, so definitely from then on, we kind of just like, I think after that, my grandfather coming, I believe, from Arkansas. Maybe I'm lying, but coming from Arkansas.
All of our grandpas came
Right.
from Arkansas.
There you go. So, but coming from Arkansas in regards to it, and so wanting to sit there and have a big family, but to sit there and leave a legacy. And so he started this funeral home. And so, yeah. So we've been in business for over 50 years.
That is fucking amazing. And
Yeah.
if you live in this city, you have been to this funeral home. It has literally been around my whole adult life. So I actually
Layaway Jones.
Layaway Jones?
That's what they used to call my grandfather, just because he was the first person to actually start where like white funeral homes where you had to pay everything up front.
Right.
Black funeral homes are a little bit more lenient, and so they would call my grandfather Layaway Jones because he'd be like, all right, well, we know you ain't got no money, so we're gonna put you on the layaway plan, but you gotta do your payment plan to sit there and pay your funeral off or pay your loved one
It was
off.
like Afterpay
Yeah,
30 years ago.
basically. Yeah.
But knowing that we are a poor society, we
Yeah.
are a poor community, we don't make as much money as everyone else. So that's dope. I didn't even know that. I'm
Yeah.
learning. I like learning new shit, y'all.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
met your brother when I had to bury my grandmother.
Oh.
Yes, and just because of the last name, I mean, Jones is a very common
Oh yeah,
black
definitely a
last
common name.
but their genes are pretty strong.
You think we all look alike?
Huh?
You think we look alike?
When I met your brother, I knew he
You
was your
knew
brother.
exactly. That's his shame. Yeah.
But he definitely took care of us, and the family took care of us. And when you have to bury someone, you want people that look like you are important,
Oh yeah, definitely.
and people that can relate, and people that have empathy and sympathy, and that was extreme. So I have a forever tie to this family on multiple reasons. But yes,
Well,
they
thank you for that.
yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad he took care of you because I have definitely heard other stories, not from him, but from
Right.
other funeral homes where, it was we allowed to cuss.
This is black and vocal as fuck.
Hey, I'm just making sure where it was a shit show. And we know how black funerals can be. So, and I have definitely walked in where I had to sit there and drop something off to my brother to where it's a visitation between the family and they seeing their loved one for the first time. And it is security's like at the back because black families, y'all, look, they act a fool. I'm
They're
not going to say y'all.
passionate about the people they love.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yes, for sure.
Very passionate.
So, how is it that your family runs the first in Kansas City and possibly the first in the Midwest black funeral home, and you are not in that business?
Well, I blame my father. So at the age of like 4 and 5, kids can't like distinguish, fantasy from reality. And my father used to take me down to the basement with the dead bodies and, just got scared after that and won't ever sit there. Now, I could probably do admin work.
Where was your brother at? Because he's still there. He didn't get taken to the basement?
No, I'm pretty sure, but everybody's different.
Yeah.
We'll just call it a cancerism. Like I was just really sensitive.
So have you
and scary.
ever styled
A dead body?
the deceased?
No. You know what? But
Because then that would...
I might add that to my
Yeah,
resume.
I'm
You just
saying.
gave me something. What's it
Because
called?
people do makeup,
Yeah.
they do hair for the deceased, and when that's the last time you get to see someone that you love, that's pretty significant.
You know what? I might.
I'm
look
gonna
into
send
that.
you an invoice
All right, duly noted.
for that referral. Anywho,
All right, deal.
So growing up, you were in college. People thought you was a little fly. It wasn't no social media back then, so they didn't see you on
No,
social
not
media
at all.
growing up. They just knew you look good, and
Yeah.
you probably could give them an opinion on what would make them look good.
Yeah.
So you became a stylist. How did that transcend into after college life and adulthood?
So college, I actually started my own T-shirt line. It was called, well,
Oh my God.
it's called Identities. Oh, well, yeah.
I
You
have
remember.
it's been a while.
They probably faded. Well, if anything, or
I
maybe.
still have the black by popular demand.
Oh, okay. There you
Yes.
go. Yeah.
Damn, I
That was
forgot
the first
about
one, and so that had to be 10 years ago. So if that ain't faded, that's some
Listen,
good quality.
Well, we're coming full circle because we have known each other, we've supported each other
Yeah.
all this time. So I remember.
Yeah.
I
So
remember.
so I did that. That was actually my like cornerstone to sit there and say, hey, empower yourself while you're wearing a T-shirt. So I always sit there and say the tagline is like, Nike and all these brands can sit there, you just wearing their brand, but how can you wear a shirt and feel empowered, or how can you sit there and boost your self-esteem while wearing like a T-shirt or something like that, and then dress it up. Like, everybody is usually like just your normal, typical T-shirt and jeans kind of person, but
Just
you can
stand up
sit
for
there.
us. Let me see how you dressed up this T-shirt you got on today.
Mariah.
Me and Mariah go back like babies and pacify. He got on these pleather pants. Are they leather or they're pleather? How much money you got?
We gonna
Plead the
say they're
fifth. Just
pleather.
plead the fifth.
Yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
But it's crazy because so I have on a T-shirt and it's from a local line called Black Money Matters. You see, we got Huey
That's one
on
now?
here. Yeah, and see, I just
Oh, did you just get that one recently?
no, it's been a while. Fitted
Oh.
skirt. you
Well,
know?
I got a few of their shirts too. So
Yeah, so
that's
shout
what I'm
out
saying.
to Demetrius Joyner and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, fashion. But I also created my own line, and it was solely for the reason of being able to express myself through fashion. So
Yeah.
that's crazy. So of course you're a stylist, and then you created a T-shirt line.
Yep.
But you don't make the T-shirts anymore.
I just definitely it's the world of fashion is very interesting. So it's kind of, and once you take off, because I think once I took off, it was kind of doing one or the other, because you got to focus unless
Okay.
you get a team to sit there and really support you. And by then I sort of had a team, but then sometimes things just don't work out, and people want to be more Chiefs than they want to be Indians. So that's just kind of what happened.
From
But
the home of the Chiefs, we definitely know how that works.
yeah. So, but you know what? I've been getting a lot of people to ask about bringing it back. So maybe 2024, we'll see something in the spring.
Maybe you can collaborate with Black, and then we can do something together.
Yeah, I'm down for it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So, stylist, designer,
Educator.
who are you educating
So
these days?
So I work in early childhood education.
Do
so
you?
I do.
Kids?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, yeah. We'll say kids. So I work for the Office of Head Start, but I do technical support and training now. So, but I was in the classroom, and then I did home visiting for about 7 years. So, yeah. But now I do technical
Surprise.
support. Surprise, surprise.
I
No.
can't imagine you with no other than Legend. How's Legend?
He's good.
Is Legend your nephew?
No, Legend's my little brother.
Oh, shit.
Don't
Okay.
ask. Papa was
Papa was a Rolling Stone.
So yeah, so I do technical support and training for the Office of Head Start, and
Okay.
so in that I come in and just sit there and support programs and do family engagement, kind of going forward. So yeah, that's where I say that's where like my professionalism comes from, or my profession comes into play. So
Because you have a balance, you have to have a balance of that part when
Yeah.
you go into doing these new business endeavors, and
Yeah.
you are still pursuing your education.
I am. I went back to. Well, I'm going back to get my master's, so I'm going to UMKC to do curriculum and instruction. So we know that the curriculum for Black and brown kids doesn't
Does
sit
it
there and support.
exist?
Yeah. So that's definitely my pivotal point, is sitting there getting into the schools and sitting there trying to create, not really create, but to sit there and foster education that supports Black and brown families, so that we don't have these teachers in there saying, "Oh, your child's aggressive." No, you got to understand
How
like
they communicate.
yeah, and things of that nature. Or, you know, why are elementary, well, not elementary, why are early childhood kids getting expelled? Black boys getting expelled. Like that
Because
should not
nobody
exist.
understands them.
Yeah, and then you want to sit there and say, "Oh, aggressive behavior, ADHD." No, you just need to know how, like you said, know how to communicate.
So pause. I'm not gonna cry. I promise. Anybody knows me that knows I'm very emotional. However, so I met this man passing out condoms. I was working the front door at a nightclub. He was passing out condoms.
Not
He
the
gave me a
nightclub.
rapid HIV test. I bought his T-shirts. I saw him styling other people, and I knew him as a stylist. So initially, when I started this podcast, I wanted to talk about more so topics than people.
Yeah.
So I wanted to discuss topics that aren't discussed often in our community. So I was like, oh my gosh, I really don't even understand what a stylist is. Langston will be good for a stylist. And I saw him at a fashion show. My sister, Rachel Hughes, she was on a previous episode, Finessing
Hey,
Fashion.
Rachel. I still need my autograph.
She was at a fashion show, and we start talking, and he was telling me that he had a new endeavor. And so in my head, I knew, okay, these are topics I want to talk about. These are people that will fit into those brackets. And he told me about this new endeavor, and I said, God damn, that ain't even what I envisioned you for. But now the
It's coming full
lifestyle
circle.
that you have led has moved you into a different category, which kind of just piggybacks on what you just talked about with education. But
Yeah.
what is it now that you are completely focused on?
So I'm doing life coaching. And so life coaching is just getting a client or a person, or we'll say human being, to sit there and reach their fullest potential. Aside from therapy, which a lot of people of color don't really seek, this sometimes we just need extra guidance and coaching throughout life, wherever pivotal point in life that we are. I mean, my ultimate goal is to get Black and brown people to go to therapy, but coaching is probably a pivotal step, kind of sitting there supporting mental health, kind of going forward, or wellness.
That was very textbook.
Was
Break it down.
Break it down to
Why
what?
do I need a life coach?
What? I mean, you look at how you grow up. As Black and brown people, like if you really think about it, like there are many adversities that we grew up, many traumas that we kind of faced, like growing up, and sometimes you need guidance kind of going forward to sit there and kind of support and reaching to your fullest potential. So hypothetically, you want to sit there and it's really just like really supporting them with like goals, kind of sit there and support. So, my second, well, is it the first or second, like session of life coaching is the Wheel of Life. So we
Okay.
go into kind of like these 8 categories and kind of devise them. And then so you score where you are in life, and then you score where you want to be in life.
Okay.
And then so kind of going through that, like then we say, hey, so what you want to do? What do you want to focus on for how I can sit there and support you kind of going forward and things of that nature.
What
so
you gonna do? Barbecue and mildew? I just heard somebody say they ain't never heard that phrase before. You gonna shit or get off the pot? What you gonna do? Is that how you talk to your clients?
you know what? I haven't gotten to the level of Ayana Van Zandt, but hopefully one day.
So this is the new idea. And honestly, I've never even watched one of her episodes.
Oh my gosh, she's
So
cutthroat.
I'm literally asking you what a life coach is because I've heard of her.
Yeah.
And I've seen clips, when she's spazzing out, and I know I have the gist of what she does. But like you said, in the Black community, therapy isn't really glamorized, nor
Yeah.
is it discussed. So life coaches,
Except for after the pandemic, now it's a little bit more glamorized.
because
but
we went fucking crazy.
yeah,
Yeah, and if we would have had therapy before we went crazy, it would have been less crazy.
yeah.
But that is something that I believe that she, in her stardom, kind of brought highlight to
Right,
life coaching,
definitely.
because that's what she is. She's a life coach.
Yeah.
Can anybody be a life coach?
You actually can. Like, technically, you don't need a certification, but there are tools everybody likes, like, if you were to sit there and look me up, like, you want to see that somebody's certified. If I were to, be a stylist, you want to see, my resume. You want to see my clients. You don't want to just sit there and say, oh, I'm going to book you, and then such and such. You want to definitely see that I can sit there and support you kind of going forward before you sit there and pay this lump sum of money.
You won't say, Google me, bitch.
I mean, you could. You could.
So I know that you were pursuing life coach when we last discussed.
Mm-hmm.
Has that been completed?
So no,
And how does
actually,
that work?
So I'm doing a 14-week course cohort through Messy Roots and ICF, which is the International Coaching Federation, something like that. Kind of made that up, but no,
Did you?
no. I think
Y'all
that's
Google
really what
that
it
shit
stands
because
for.
he
Yeah.
making up shit.
But Messy Roots is the organization that I'm going through. So shout out to Mario Devine.
Is that local?
No, he's
Okay.
out of Charlotte.
Okay.
Charlotte. So yeah, but everybody from like the cohort. So this is the second time he's done a cohort, kind of going forward. So you have people from all over the world, and we get on Zoom every Wednesday and just kind of connect. And so now he's kind of gotten more international. I thought we have somebody who's all the way in China, and they will sit there and log in.
Wow. So a cohort is this group where you guys are coming together for one commonality.
Yeah.
And in this case, it is to become a life coach.
It is.
So what are the qualifications necessary that you even, because I know you said that you don't have to be certified to be a life coach, but you are deciding to go the route to where you gain certification. What else is required? What are the credentials that you need to have to even apply for this program or be a part of it?
I think one of the biggest things is learning how to listen to people. I know that's one of the biggest pieces is when, like, and that goes with therapy too, is learning to listen to people and hear what they're actually saying, though, so that you can sit there and articulate or interpret what they're actually going through or what they need to sit there and support to where they can get to like their end goal going forward. But you have to have also a lot of compassion. Like when I say compassion, because not everybody's a people person.
I know. But those are things that you can show action towards. If someone saw your resume, is there anything that needs to be on your resume before they accept you into a program or before you can apply for something like this? Because you can't put that, I listen to people. They may not believe you. So are there education requirements? Are there any other course requirements?
There actually aren't.
Wow.
Yeah, so you could just jump into it and say, "Hey, I want to be a life coach." There are many different layers or different types of life coaching. So you can be a spiritual, you can be a men's or women's empowerment. You can be a relationship life coach. So it's kind of just where you fit. And I think it comes like a lot of like word of mouth, kind of going forward, kind of
Okay.
sit there and kind of support. Like, so if you look at it, it's kind of like definitely this notion of like, hey. Like, but I mean, I can sit there and say, like, my education has supported, like, me. And then if you kind of look at that, if somebody were to sit there and look me up and then said, like, oh, so his background is in child and family development, and then he's getting, like, his master's in, this, that would probably be the foundation for somebody to sit there and kind of see that, whatever, versus, or, I mean, hey, if you got an HR background, hey, that probably works too.
You've worked with people.
Yeah,
So that's
definitely.
something someone can confirm and verify through your resume. So essentially that helps. However,
definitely.
it's not a requirement.
Not at all. Like, I have literally seen, like, when I told my friend that I was doing this life coach cohort, and she was like, well, how much you paying? And I told her the price, and she was just like, so she sends me this link to where you can be certified and get all the materials that I'm actually going through this class for half the fraction. No, not even half the fraction, for like pennies.
Wow.
But I think one of the biggest things that I'm learning, though, is networking with different people. And I think it's definitely worth it. I mean, if you look at it, you definitely want to sit there and, like, give back to your own community. And Mario is Black. And I think that's one of the biggest things. I definitely want to support him as, like, business model because, we go out here, we support these white people all the time, kind of
Yes,
going forward.
for sure.
But we don't support our own people. And I think that's why I definitely chose to sit there and stay in the cohort versus just sitting there saying, hey, I can just pay this $100, get all these materials, and then keep things moving. So.
Wow. So it's a 14-week cohort. How far along are you in that journey?
Oh, I'm at the very end. I'm close to the finish
Can
line
you see the
because
finish
these Wednesday night classes when I could sit there and be out at happy hour or something, it is not bad.
Two-stepping at the JUCO.
Oh yeah,
You
know
missing
what?
all that.
I know. Is it only Tuesdays?
You don't even know. Never mind. It's Wednesdays. That's why I brought it up.
No. Well, class is Wednesday, so
Yeah, so that's
I
when
messed it up.
two-stepping is
Let's see, it's
Wednesday.
that shot.
Yeah.
It's all your fault. No, but it is Wednesday, so kind of doing that. But I mean, it's an hour. It's literally just an hour of like your time, so it's definitely not like. And I've definitely learned, and I've gained a lot of friends through the class and a lot of colleagues to sit there and kind of support. And we sit there like and connect and be like, hey, we're gonna be in Kansas City. Like, how can we whatever? Or like, hey, can I hit you up because I need to? It's a lot of storytelling.
So we're in relationship building. So
Yeah.
through those stories, you're building relationships with other people that want the same thing as you.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, and I think that's important no matter what you're doing, to find people that are doing something like you. And in our community, it is shunned a lot of time to help those who are doing something like you, because then you're seeing this competition. But everything that he's saying just kind of reminds me of why we have this connection, because it's bigger than that. It's about supporting each other.
Yeah, definitely.
Kansas City is small compared to some of the bigger cities, but it's not that small. It's enough of us here to succeed and do the same thing, and everybody be able to help each other.
Yeah.
So I feel like therapists and life coaches and doctors and preachers are kind of all in the same boat, because people put them on a pedestal because they're helping people.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that they are perfect people
At all.
So what inspired you to go this route? And then also, what qualifies you outside of that education piece that you have and that you're pursuing? Why would I need to call you to be my life coach opposed to me just thinking I can figure it out on my own? So what made you want to do it, and then why are you going to be unique, different than any other person who's doing the same thing?
Well, it's me, first of all. No, I'm just kidding. No, I think it goes back to what you kind of said. Like, I want to help people. And I think sometimes as Black and brown people, we don't know how to ask for help. I think that's one of the biggest things. Like, we have gone through this culture of wanting to sit there and be, alpha male or alpha female kind of going forward and things of that nature. So, but we need help. Like, we don't have all the answers kind of going forward. And I think one of the biggest things of life coaching is assisting in that process. So, but also in that process, like with therapists and things of that nature, you want to help people. Like, but sometimes you can't help all people. But I think one thing that I always sit there and say with life coaching is definitely one step into kind of like the therapy aspect. Mm-hmm. And like I said before, like, I definitely want Black and brown people to sit there and go to therapy. Like, I would love for Black and brown
Would you have
people.
a therapist and a life coach?
Yeah, that's usually how it works out.
Really?
Yeah, and a lot of times, I've definitely been talking to people in my cohort because some of them have like therapy backgrounds, but life coaching just sits there and supports on another aspect of it. Okay. And I think that's just a part of it. It's just like, you want to help people, and you want to continue to sit there and help people, but with life coaching, it's really just bringing them to their next potential. Where therapy is really getting people through their drama. Or their traumas and medical diagnosis and psychological diagnosis kind of going forward. And I think that's one of the biggest things of kind of just sitting there wanting to sit there and help people and support people. Just like going back, I mean, you think all the way back from slave days. Like, and I think that's one of the biggest things, like, as Black men, you're taught to sit there and be, the head of the household, but then don't ask for help, like, kind of going forward, like, or you keep it in your friends group, or you keep it amongst, like, another man or things like that kind of going forward. And it's kind of like, but you need another outlet.
They have everyone has the same thought process.
Yeah.
So who's going to guide you somewhere different other than where you're already guiding yourself?
Definitely.
So reaching out to someone who is unbiased, which is essentially like, normally when you go to therapy, you want somebody else's opinion.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You want someone who's educated and who has the background to provide those insights for you. It seems like, I'm an event planner, so it seems like when you talk about life coaching, it's kind of like goal setting. Mm-hmm. Like, where are you? Where do you want to be? And how do we get there? And then what do we do to get there?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you have and I know with this cohort is kind of like you intern when you're in college. Mm-hmm. How, as becoming a life coach, how do you get that? Are there a certain number of hours you have to have? Do you talk with people, or how do you get to exercise what you're doing?
So, besides outside of the class, so we do mock sessions. So, okay. Currently I have 3 mock clients. Kind of going forward, and I believe I have to do 20 hours. Okay. So usually your coaching session is an hour. It can range from 30 minutes to an hour, but in that, you're sitting there asking the person like, hey, what do you want to talk about? Like, what happened last week? What was going on that you couldn't reach? Like, say you want to work on like fitness and mental wellness or things like that. Like, we're gonna sit there and dive into making these, we call them SMART goals,
Okay.
and things of that nature, just to make sure that they're reachable. Like, everybody can sit there and set a goal, but when you think about it, like, if you sit there and say, hey, we'll use, for example, when I did home visiting, if I had a parent sit there in my program and say, hey, we want to buy a house, but y'all strictly living off like the system, we're going to sit there and have to take it back to baby steps.
Not
So,
just goals
Yeah.
that are within your reach.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
So,
how to make it happen by following that.
yeah, so.
So does that require for you to be somewhat of an asshole?
Not necessarily. I mean, yes, you can sit there and say it. That would probably be the most transparent way to sit there and put it.
I'm transparent as
Yeah,
fuck.
yeah, definitely. I mean, there are points where I think we just learned, was it last week or 2 weeks ago? Like, there's the point of, I forgot what the analogy is, but basically it's keeping it real with your client.
Holding them accountable.
Yeah.
For what they've said and what they've done.
Yeah, so if you sit there and say, okay, well, last week, or maybe I've been working with you over the same goal for the last 3 weeks, I would sit there and be like, all right, now you done told me that you wanted to sit there and get back in shape, and your steps were to sit there and
you drinking a Coca-Cola right now.
right. And it's kind of like, what's been so hard about just sitting there going to go get a gym membership? What are your barriers? You have a car, you got a job. Technically, this is we at the end of 2023. Like, you can do a gym membership online. You can do your own research. Like, what's the issue? Like, that's the point of being real with the client. Like, okay, I'm going to push you to your fullest of potential, but I'm going to hold you accountable. Like, so.
And for mental health, I think that's actually a great segue because I know for me, like, depression has caused me to lose weight, but it's also caused me to gain weight.
Oh, yeah.
Anxiety has played a factor in why I cannot get up and go to the gym.
Oh, yeah.
And it not being an excuse, it's literally a mental thing. And like I literally was talking to Tyree the other day, my oldest son, and I'm like, you can't perform the things that you need to do when you're not in a good mind space.
Yeah.
And the challenge I think we have in our community is we don't think that our brain is a part of our body.
True.
So in the Black community, we have diabetes. We have high blood pressure. There are medicines that we take to get that stuff under control.
Right.
But we don't talk about your brain being a part of your body and what happens when it is not working properly.
It shuts down.
And there are medications that are available to help it start working properly.
Yeah.
So the lack of discussion regarding those type of things lead to us not wanting to do them, feeling weak for taking those medications, feeling ostracized because you really don't understand that everybody else is doing it because nobody else is talking about it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's stigma, it's taboos, like, in regards to it. Like, and then when you think about mental health or you think about therapy, you always think, oh, you crazy. No, the reality is you not crazy. You need help.
You probably
And
you're
you
probably
just need
saner than
treatment.
somebody who can't even admit that something is
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that's why mental health was extremely important for me. One, because I've recently experienced it. I struggle with anxiety and depression. And when I began to struggle with that, I hadn't just met my husband, but we had just decided to move in together.
Yeah.
As a single mother, a single woman, having a helpmate was like goals.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, I got somebody to split the rent up with, pay the bills. And I was just at work, like, crying. Like, I'm talking about typing, tears falling down my eyes. And I'm like, what's wrong? And I kept saying something physical must be wrong.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm pregnant. Or maybe
Hormones.
maybe I'm vitamin D deficient. Maybe
Yeah.
I have an issue with a thyroid. Like, to run all these tests to figure out what's physically wrong with me. And during that time, I sought a Black therapist because I'm power to the people, y'all, and I wanted somebody to talk to me that looked like me.
Oh, yeah.
And after doing all these tests, pregnancy tests, vitamin D tests, thyroid tests, the person that I first talked to that explained things the way that it made sense was not a Black person. It was a older white woman through my EAP. A lot of people have EAP through their
Through work,
job.
yep.
If you don't know about it, look into it. And it is a program that will give you a certain number of free therapy sessions.
It's 6, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
generally
I think most
it's
jobs
6.
is 6, yeah.
Yeah, so contact your HR department. They'll give you free therapy sessions. And I sat down and I said, "Hi, my name is so and so. I'm this many years old, and I have this many children, and I have a boyfriend, and I have a dog, and I have a full-time job, and I own 3 businesses, and I do this and."
3. She's a Wonder Woman.
Listen, honey, Becky with the good hair looked at me like, "Bitch, you tired." And I said, "What?" Because I was a single mother. And I'm like, I'm doing all these things because I have to do them to take care of my family.
Right.
And what she said was like, "You've been a superwoman." And I'm like, "I know. I'm black. I'm proud of that." And she was like, "No, like that's a lie. Your body is not accustomed to that anymore." And I couldn't believe it, but as I sat there waiting for her in the waiting room, there was a pamphlet that talked about your brain being a part of your body. And in that, I realized, with the help of my primary care physician, that I lack serotonin. And I never knew what serotonin was, but
Right.
serotonin is something that happens with your brain, and it gives you these happy feelings. And I didn't have enough of it, so I wasn't happy. And even though I couldn't pinpoint what was making me sad, which was driving me crazy as a black
Right.
woman, a woman of color, a mother, I didn't know what was wrong with myself. And so I ran down this hole, and through the first several years of that, I was in denial. I took that medicine and I stopped. I tried to wean myself off of it, and I always circle back to depression.
Yeah.
And at one point, right now, I take a daily antidepressant to help balance my serotonin levels. And I thought I was weak. Like, I thought it made me weak. When my husband and boyfriend was like, "What's wrong?" I couldn't tell him what was wrong because I didn't know.
Right.
And so I am an advocate of mental health, and I feel like talking about it is the first step to help others be more comfortable. I heard you talking about earlier as far as your education piece being around the youth. How will you being a life coach tie into that, or will it?
So it's interesting because I was just actually talking to my friend who works for, I'm guessing, youth services or child division or things like that. And so we were talking about just forming like an MOU with these kids who are in the system. Who
And MOU is?
Memorandum of Understanding.
Okay.
I had to think about it too. So yeah.
Jargon.
Yeah, no. But like to sit there and do that because she was just like, these kids, they just lack basic guidance, like especially the ones who are about to sit there and get released out into society. Like, if they had like a life coach or somebody sit there and be like, "Hey, you about to go out in society. These are things that I would sit there and work on." Like, and a lot of them, when it comes to like therapy, like, they just don't see enough of our people, like kind of going forward. I remember when I first started going to therapy, like it was back in college. Like I suffered probably, I'm guessing what it was, mental breakdown.
Okay.
I had 2 friends who literally died back to back. Like, and so I'm sitting there, and clearly my family has a funeral home, so dealing with grief ain't nothing. And then trying to be like strong for everybody else in our friends group, and my body was like, "You've had enough." And we don't say that I went crazy.
Okay.
Like, but I mean, technically I didn't. Like, my brain just said, "Okay, you want to keep on being strong for yourself?"
It shut down.
Yeah, it said, "Okay, I've had enough too." And so some series of events happened to where I ended up having to go to the counselor on like campus. And now this is where I say, like, I'm an advocate of having a black or brown therapist, because the one they gave me, she was really good. She was white, and she was probably a white hippie, but she didn't really, we connected just because I know I needed it. But it wasn't until I got my black therapist, I think we'll say 7 years ago, that understanding, and that we could actually connect on a level that, like, I've had probably 4 therapists. And when I got my black therapist, like, I finally connected with somebody, and I was able to sit there and, I say shed off like kind of like those layers, or like all that information that, like, talking to, a white therapist or just like a therapist, like I was able to connect and be able to sit there and just be open.
So the relatability was important.
Definitely. Yeah.
And I believe that we all want that. I think And as you guys know, my husband and I own a firearms accessory store in Kansas City, and we have a lot of Black youth coming here, and we are Second Amendment advocates. And a lot of them say, they go in the big back stores and they just take their money. And they like being able to come in here and ask us questions because we look like them.
Yeah.
And I think that is important, period, no matter what you're doing. Now, that always isn't the answer, because for therapy, what I found is just because you find someone that looks like you doesn't mean that they can completely relate. Doesn't mean
definitely.
that is the person that's going to help. Therapy is almost like finding a hairdresser or a nail tech. We always say that people want to, vet what type of customers they have. But as a client, you want to be able to get to know who you're seeking help from. And sometimes that comes with a session. And sometimes if you don't have insurance, if you don't have EAP, that comes with money. But how many of us have $100 to $150 per hour to get to know someone that we need to help us? So I think that in our community, it's also that knowledge of just having those resources. And it's that I just really feel like that. And then you're a Black man, I'm a Black woman. I had my thoughts about, seeing.
I'm Asian, transracial.
You're also Mariah Carey. But anyhow. We all have our challenges.
Rachel.
You got you have to get to know a therapist the same way you would want to see somebody's work before you go to them to start styling your hair. You want to know that people are receiving help, and it's just a different fit.
Yeah.
Like, everyone might not be good for everyone else.
Oh, yeah.
So, and another misconception I feel like that is heavily discussed in our community as well is the fact that you do have to be crazy to seek help. And our definition of crazy in our community, if you look at other communities, that definition translates to disorders.
Yeah.
That definition translates to lack of vitamins, to health issues. But in the Black community, when someone is vocal about how they feel, when they have a low tolerance for bullshit, when they have mood swings, that they're defined as crazy.
Yeah.
How do you think that it's important for us to start breaking down who actually needs therapy and make people feel comfortable with them being different? Because essentially you're different than your partner or than your friend, and it makes you feel bad because you need help with something.
Well, I think one of the biggest things is realizing that therapy is for anybody. Like, you don't have to be crazy. You don't need a diagnosis, like, kind of going forward. I mean, hindsight, we're all crazy. So that's one of the biggest things. We're all crazy.
Because what does crazy even mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's the new norm.
We're all different.
Yeah.
And that's what crazy is.
Look, we didn't all went through a pandemic. And so at this point, if you didn't survive the pandemic, look, you need therapy kind of going forward because we were robbed.
Because that was traumatizing as fuck.
Yeah, definitely. So,
but we didn't. It never happened. So we didn't even know what we were supposed to be doing, what we could be doing. It was.
Yeah, it's a lot of coping mechanisms to sit there and that, like, you didn't know how to sit there and you, like, I know, like, my therapist, like, having candid conversations, like the suicide rate, like the rate of, like, prescribing medication went up, like, during the pandemic, just because people couldn't handle it kind of going forward. But, like, kind of getting back to what you were kind of saying is, like, my ADD just kicked in, so I forgot what your question was.
Or was it the fireball? I'm going to pick up while you're there. If my ADD doesn't kick in.
No, so I think you said what constitutes, like, going to therapy or something.
Yeah, like, because we think you have to be crazy. We think you have to see someone shot in front of you. You have to lose a parent, lose a child. These are the traumas we feel like are dramatically associated with getting help. Yeah, and there are a lot of things that are, I'm not going to say less than, but I'm going to say alternatively.
Right.
Things that may cause you to seek help.
I think if you just want to seek help, like, that's one of the biggest things to kind of sit there and be a pivotal point. Like, if you can, I mean, going back to what you said, like there's the denial, and how much can you be in denial to where it keeps on, or not it keeps, but it's affecting you physically, like you said, like your body was sitting there telling you one thing, then your head is telling you something else, and it's kind of trying to figure out like what's really
Who
going
do I
wrong with this
listen
person.
to? Do I
Yeah.
listen to my body or my
Yeah.
mind?
Yeah. But even going from like medical distrust of like, black and brown people, like kind of going forward, like, but I always sit there and tell people, and I'm religious and spiritual kind of going forward. God definitely created like, man to sit there
Or a
and,
woman.
well, yeah, and woman to sit there and support kind of going forward. Like, so God created these doctors to sit there and support us. So why sit there and have these people just on earth to sit there and just do nothing,
Not need doctors.
yeah. So everybody needs help, like the same way you kind of go to the doctor. I mean, now you've got Google, so you can sit there and do research, but don't make Google like your only friend, because Google can definitely get you in trouble. But one of the things is just in there realizing that like every level of, we'll say, someone's craziness, like it's all about seeking help and getting guidance through life to sit there and feel some sense of normality. I think the norm is going to therapy. Like, I don't know out of my friends group or out of, anybody that I know who doesn't at least go to therapy. Like, and I remember asking my therapist, like, am I crazy? And my therapist was like, and I guess like, 'cause, I mean, it's not HIPAA, but like just kind of going forward, like he was just like, compared to a lot of my other clients, he was just like, you are normal. He was just like, you just sometimes lack it. And probably it comes from like, the trauma of sitting there growing up in a single parent household, and my mom's in there like going back, like you in survival mode. My mom was in survival mode for 5 kids. So like 18 times 5.
Was therapy discussed in your household when you were a child?
It was. So I remember my mom sitting there getting into therapy when she and my dad divorced. But like going forward, like we're in therapy with these white people. And like, how can a black child really identify, oh, my parents are divorced, like this is normal, like you're okay, and things like that? I mean, yeah, it's hypothetically normal, but then from that, then going into my teens, and teens, you go through a lot of mixed emotions and trying to figure out stuff. And if your parents don't understand you, then, my mom definitely probably thought something was really wrong with me. Like, or she knew out of all her kids, I was the different one kind of going forward. So,
Oh, you're a little different.
yeah, very. No, I'm just kidding. No, yeah. And so she got me into therapy in my teens. And I remember going to 3 sessions, and then my therapist said he doesn't need therapy. Y'all just need to sit there and have a mediator to understand each other. And so,
When you were growing up, how was sexuality looked at as far, and do you think that has anything to do, any part of the thought process?
oh yeah, it definitely
And
has a lot to do with it. I mean, the traditional Christian family, and what the Bible says, like, but the Bible is definitely an interpretation. I mean, you definitely learn that as an adult. But, my mom's sitting there trying to sit there and teach her kids that this is the way and the only way. And I mean, you backdate that to slavery and stuff. Like, there's not one way kind of going forward. But it definitely wasn't discussed kind of growing up. I think on my father's side, it was kind of like taboo, where it was like, it wasn't even shunned down. Like, everybody knew. But when it came down to like the children, like it was kind of like, you'll protect the children until they figure out things on their own, kind of going forward. And I remember in my teens actually going to a therapist and actually seeing that question on the paperwork. And I had never saw like sexual orientation on there. And I was just like, like it made me like, it was just like, wait, what? And, at that point, I definitely checked straight, because I was just like, I didn't, at that point, clearly, this is like a trust relationship. I
don't know you.
Yeah. And if my therapist tells my mom, oh, who knows what's going to sit there and happen kind of going forward. And, I remember like just kind of growing up and always having to fight these emotions or these feelings. And, to where like now I'm an adult, and I'm just like, you know what? It is what it is. I mean,
How old were you when you came out?
I'm gonna call myself a late bloomer because that's what my friends call me late. I was 25.
Okay.
So yeah, I definitely didn't do it in like my teens or anything, just because I knew probably for me, and it's probably just a mechanism of sitting there growing up. I knew I couldn't do it being underneath my mom's roof. I knew I was
Because
definitely
in the Bible, it tells you weren't supposed to do it.
Yeah.
And if you were raised in a Christian home, then you knew that there were some things you were not supposed to do.
yeah. Now was I doing it? Yeah, behind
For
closed
sure.
door. Yeah,
And did your mom know the whole time? Probably.
I'm pretty sure. Well, yeah, definitely knowing that. But did she know I was doing stuff? No.
But
I
did she
definitely-
know that her son?
Yeah, yeah. I think she knew I was fighting this whole thing because I remember we went to Carlton Pearson's church in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I remember it was a Azusa conference, and so we were. I don't know what day it was, but I remember her having some women like pray for me. And I remember them just sitting there praying. And I remember one lady sitting there saying that we pray for his homosexuality. I was like, wait, what? I was like, and I remember opening my eyes and I was just like,
You were supposed to be looking down. You're supposed to keep your eyes.
I was like, praying for his homosexuality. What? Man, wait, what's
Listen,
going on here?
If
So
you don't think nobody know what's going on in your life, most likely your mama do.
yeah. And I think she was fighting it too, just because I mean, you have to definitely think about it. Like a black single parent raising 5 kids. And I'll tell my mom now, I was just like, you have 4 other children.
Were you
Like-
the only different child? Are you the only different child in that nature?
Technically, yes.
Okay.
I would definitely, and I'm probably my mother's child, kind of going forward too. So, out of all of us, like my dad is more darker complected, and then my mom is definitely light complected. And so, out of all her kids, like I came out lighter. Then
Boy, I'm not talking about what color your skin is. What the hell are you talking
but
about?
if you got to break down family dynamics though.
Well,
Like
I mean, we're talking about sexuality.
I know, but like looking, like you got to think about like the outer appearance, and then
That's not
going
what
in.
the hell I'm
You know what?
talking
Leave me alone. No, just. But did my mother know I was
But
different?
we grew up
Yes.
in that. I grew up in the 80s. You grew up in the 90s. We grew up in the 90s.
I mean, I'm an 80s baby. Grew
Yeah,
up in the
you're
90s.
an 80s
So.
baby, kind of, sort of. You barely. You on that line. But that being raised that way then
Yeah.
is incomparable to being raised that way now.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's definitely, and not saying that everybody is welcoming and open, but when we were younger, you didn't see homosexuality on TV.
At all.
Unless you were up really, really late at night. I don't even think they show. Like you had to have not a DVD, a cassette. I don't know where you found lesbian or gay porn at, but it just wasn't.
You had to find it
very
somewhere,
visible. Yes.
Yeah, it was more pornography by
Yes.
then. Yeah, definitely.
So being raised now is a major difference than being raised then, and I can only imagine because you said you're a late bloomer. I came out when I was 39, so I'm way later than you.
Yeah,
But with that, and that was just didn't really have anything to do with me not wanting to tell anybody. It was about me learning myself.
That is part of sexuality.
So,
that definitely is.
So
like,
that's when, and if I could date it back to way back then, I was this then. But it was just about social acceptance is extremely important. But as a black woman and a black man, I know it's different.
oh yeah.
And I feel like it is much more difficult for you guys than it is for us.
In some way or another. I mean, there are different silos that you can sit there and kind of just like break down kind of like barriers. I think. I mean, but it goes, another piece to sit there and dive into that. I mean, it's kind of like interracial dating. Like, is it okay for like a black man to sit there and date like,
But
a
it's
white
people
girl
that
gay?
will argue that.
Yeah,
like, It's
definitely.
okay for the black man, but not for the black woman.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
looked at,
Yeah, but
quite differently.
even back to sexuality, like oh well, that's okay to sit there and do that. Like I mean, I've definitely heard it for like women, like, but it's not okay, especially for a black boy, because then you still backdated. I'll always sit there and say you backdated to ancestry, when like the master would sit there and mess with like his slaves and things of that nature. So you definitely have to put a lot of that into play. Where it's just like we're all human beings, like we all are sexual beings kind of going forward. So it's part of a walk of life. Like, but at the end of the day, it goes back to what the Bible says. Who are me to judge? Actually, I stole that from, what's his name?
Oh,
What's
Jesus?
what's his name from St. Louis?
Nelly?
Delivered. Who are me to judge? No, just
What did your sexuality have any impact on your mental health and or your desire to want to help people?
Yes, definitely. So, we'll start with my mental health. So, I remember graduating from high school, and moving here to Kansas City, and then the first 3 years of living here, and I think for until I completely accepted myself, like I was definitely fighting it to where I wasn't getting sleep, and so I would sleep for like 2 hours. And then have to go to work and work an 8 hour, and then like my eyes are like my
So in
brother.
your adult life, as
Yeah,
you were an adult.
oh yeah, yeah. So I'm sitting there like sleeping for 2 hours, wide awake, and things of that nature. And then my brother's like, "Why you have bags?" Like da da da. But I'm still like pushing it because like I'm like I got to fight this battle, da da da, and
But
things
you
of that
can't
nature.
tell anybody
Yeah,
that you didn't get any sleep.
yeah, definitely. And so that's one of the biggest things is like I was just like, hey, and then so when it came to kind of helping helping kind of going forward, I think one of the biggest things was just in there realizing that like every youth or child is in there going through a different journey, especially in the world that we live in. So that's one of the biggest things is just like wanting to sit there and help, like, and kind of answer questions that they might have.
So I'm not gonna cry, but this is very emotional for me.
I mean, we human.
It is very emotional for me for a multitude of reasons, but everything happens for a reason for sure.
Yeah.
I think that I know earlier you talked about the first step is just admitting that you need help.
Mhm.
But how do you admit that you need help when you don't know something is wrong?
That's a hard question.
Especially, I said I wanted to do a topic on toxic masculinity, and my friend told me, "Oh, I hate that word. I don't like that." And I'm
I mean,
like,
it's still a taboo, especially for the black
yeah,
community. But
it's a major thing. It's a major thing, and with men, we call it toxic masculinity, but in real life, we should actually have a versus
yeah,
because femininity and us trying to preserve the strength
yeah,
that is required to raise children alone or to go through life is actually a challenge too.
definitely so.
And in doing that, it's not so simple to say something's wrong with me.
Yeah,
And the way that we were raised, I think a lot of things are normalized. I know my husband and I talk about toxicity a lot, and even the definition of what that means, and him realizing that it actually is a thing
yeah,
because everybody around you has that same behavior. So I think we're still, although it's 2023, we're still in a space where we're defining these things, defining toxicity, defining what's the word that they use, self narcissism. It's
oh yeah,
been discussed a lot. Defining those things, manipulation, and how those people don't see themselves as people that need help, and in the meantime they're hurting people, and then the people that they hurt need help.
yeah.
So what's the defining moment where you say I need help?
I think it's just self awareness. I think, but out of that, there is definitely a point of being in a safe zone. We talk about it like now in culture, like you definitely have to be around people who you can sit there and know will sit there and support you, whether good or bad, whether right or wrong. Like, so if somebody's continue to sit there and maybe having a conversation with you, and sometimes you just have to have those pivotal points with like your friends, to sit there and whatever, like, oh, I'm here for you regardless. And then maybe it brings somebody to a breaking point or they see something to where they're like, okay, I need help.
What happens when you have friends just like you? Because I feel like in the day and age that we're in, things like social media allow people that may need help to vocalize what they're going through from their perspective and get people to support them through likes and comments and shares in which they don't feel like that they need help. So sometimes, it makes sense. Hey, you got great friends, they're going to check you. A lot of people don't have great friends.
Yeah.
A
So I
lot
think,
of people don't have great friends.
well, yeah. And I was going to say one of the pivotal points is just in there saying, like, if you really have, even if you don't have a really great friend, I mean, like you said, going back to social media, if you see a post from somebody, you can tell that they're sitting there crying out for help. Like, I think that's one of the pivotal points. And sometimes you have to find a segue, like to sit there and say, hey, I read your post. Like, let's just talk about it. Like, let's just have a conversation. And hopefully in that conversation, then they'll become aware that they need help. But I mean, sometimes it takes, I mean, it's definitely trial and error kind of going forward. Like, you won't get somebody to sit there and just off the back say, I need help. Like, there are definitely different layers. And that's why I say, I think one of the biggest things of like coaching people kind of gets them to the point of, and that's why I always sit there and say, like, life coaching is great. But our people definitely, like, there are certain things out of life coaching that you have to seek, like a therapist or mental health, to sit there and kind of support you, because I can guide you and I can help you with the steps of life and kind of give you this component. But hopefully the next step to kind of sitting there supporting, like, you know, yourself, is to sit there and seek a therapist. I know there is definitely, it's scarce, especially here for Kansas City. I know there are 5 Black therapists. So we definitely need, yeah.
I think I know more.
A Black therapist? Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
they need to add themselves to the network, because
What's the network that people can check out for Black therapists? Is there like a certain site?
no, I don't know.
Oh,
Can't
just
help you.
just a virtual.
Can't help you. No. Just talking to my therapist, and I know he's just reached out to me. He's like, there's just a handful of us out there.
Okay.
And like,
yeah.
I think one of the biggest,
it's growing. It's
yeah,
definitely growing.
yeah, and I think one of the biggest things, like, I was definitely, before I got into life coaching, or I was going to go back for my master's, I was going to do that, but I just knew I could help people. That I had to help people in a different capacity, and going to school to be a therapist, I could do it, but it just definitely, it probably would have broke me. I'm an empath, so it probably would have broke me down more than I would have been on vacation like every week or something like that.
How
So
and that is a great. How do you create a work-life balance when you are in a field where you do have to talk to people and coach people, and you will get those emotions and feelings and thoughts. And being an empath, I can't imagine how that is, whether you're a therapist or a life coach. It is taking those things in and essentially making them a part of you. So how do you balance that? How do you balance that work, which really doesn't ever stop? Like, you can't just clock out of being a life coach.
you definitely have to know your limits. I definitely learned my limits kind of going forward, or learning like your boundaries. Like, this is my capacity to sit there and support somebody or to help somebody. And sometimes you have to take off that mask and to realize, like, you not Superman, like, all the time. Like, sometimes, like, you know, whether it's a glass of wine or to sit there and unwind or finding a self-care kind of, like, you know, technique kind of going forward, like, you definitely have to find some way, whether it's, you know, going for a walk or, you know, I mean, I realized having a pet or a dog definitely helps
same.
with kind of sitting there supporting. Like, I can sit there and, you know, get home from work or whatnot, and then my dog is sitting there waiting for me, and we just sit there and chill and watch TV. So, like, it's definitely finding out what works best for you to sit there. But I say the biggest thing is sit there and set boundaries, especially in this time. I mean, I feel like the pandemic has definitely helped, especially with these corporate America jobs, to sit there and realize that this is my capacity, and look.
And I'm clocking out when I'm done with my capacity.
And when I say, yes, you gave me a laptop to take home, but you know what? I'm not after 5 o'clock. Look,
I'm not.
It'll be here tomorrow. Yeah.
Yes, creating boundaries, but I think that also transcends into life, period.
Yeah.
Whether you are a life coach or a therapist, a psychiatrist, a doctor, administrator, whatever you do, you have to create a balance between life and work and home and children and friends and family. Last question, because I know we have taken up some of your time. I really don't care, because this is a dope ass topic.
I mean,
but
we need to do a part 2 now.
Listen, part 2. Can Black people afford life coaching? We talked about therapy and going through an EAP to get that. What about life coaches? Is that something you have to pay out of pocket? Is it like affordable for people to do that still have to raise children and pay bills and things of that nature? What would you say to someone who questioned that?
So, life coaching. So the one biggest thing, it is affordable, depending on the life coach that you connect with. Because, I mean, technically you can range from $25 per session up to like $500 per session, kind of going forward. The only caveat that I will let people know is with life coaching, excuse me, it is definitely you pay out of pocket. So aside from like, having insurance or, your insurance and they're paying like the deductible or things of that nature, for a life coach, we don't take insurance. Like,
So you have to be committed to a life
Yeah.
change because it's something you're going to have to put in your budget.
Yeah, definitely.
But it can be affordable.
It can be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so and technically, like if you don't find a life coach that's in affordable range, technically you'll get a referral for somebody who is. And a lot of life coaches will sit there and actually do it on a sliding scale. If I really want to help you, we'll sit there and kind of find a way to make it happen.
I'll make it work.
Yeah, the same way with therapy. Like my therapist told me his session, he was just like, you got a network and this is how much I charge, but how much can you sit there and afford per session since you got a network or since your insurance isn't covered? And so we just came to a common what's called, and I knew I needed a therapist, and he was willing to sit there and take a L because he believed in supporting another, fellow black man. So
I just love you.
oh, thanks.
If someone needs a stylist, if someone needs an advocate, if someone needs a life coach, if someone needs a funeral home, where can they find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at stylistlangston.j, on Facebook, Langston Jones. Yeah, those are probably the easiest way to sit there and kind of find me, kind of going forward. I do have like a link tree on my page where you can sit there and break down kind of the different services that I have, kind of sit there and kind of support. So yeah, but that's where you can find me. Hopefully it's easy to sit there and navigate.
You're nearly at the end of this cohort. I wish you many blessings.
Well,
I don't know
thank
if I
you.
need a life coach. But then that would be like some type of conflict of interest anyway, huh?
Not necessarily.
Really?
Actually, my life coach is actually my friend, and we just set up, like I said, boundaries. Like, and so this is professional to our friendship, and in the sessions we are definitely professional, and that's just. I mean, we can kiki definitely in the sessions, but it's definitely balancing out like that professionalism versus, we're friends kind of going forward, and if that's ever broken, then the contract is broken.
You're
So,
done.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have to see what we can afford. We're struggling black business owners. Maybe you
Well,
can give me a deal.
Well, one of the biggest things that I'll probably start off with is the first 3 sessions are free, and then after that, so
free
yeah,
99.
there you go. No, I'm. That's why I say I'm definitely an advocate of sitting there supporting. So if you can't sit there and support the first 3 sessions, just like EAP, the first 6 sessions are free. I mean, I won't give you 6 because I still got to make an income. But I'll give you 3. I will definitely give you 3.
And if you need an officiant as well, because he officiates weddings.
Yes,
So
call
is
me
there
Father
anything-
Maurice.
Is there anything I left out? Because you have such a large gamut of things that you do.
Well, I think we're gonna start the Kansas City Strippers Association.
Are you
I'm just
single?
kidding. No.
Oh, okay, so he's off the
Unfortunately.
market. Don't slide in his DMs. That'll be extremely
I mean, you
inappropriate.
can, but I mean,
So you in a lifestyle that I'm in?
no.
Oh, okay.
I mean, but you can
Different.
slide in my DMs. I mean, it just might not go anywhere. So, I mean, it
Giving
might
you
go somewhere
false hope.
depending. Yeah.
Don't listen to him.
I know.
I thank you so much for tuning in to episode 5 of Black and Vocalist Fuck, where we spoke with Mr. Langston Jones about mental health and in the Black community. We hope that you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, comment, share. We'll see y'all later.
Peace.
Bye.
She's black and vocal.